Welcome to the Man Cave. What's happening, my friends? Before I get started today, a couple shout outs. Number one shout out to my buddy Chad. Hey, Chad has recently went through a very rough part in his life. Lost his sister to cancer. So, Chad, just let you know that our thoughts and prayers are with you and the family. And thanks for your support. As you guys know, if you've been following my channel, that my wife V, is going through cancer too. And it's a pretty rough road to follow for anybody that has to go through that. The person with the cancer and the family as well. Also want to thank Dave Novotny for his support. Another viewer from California. Good guy, has offered all kinds of support to V and I, and has some pretty good helpful tips for us too. And thanks to all you guys for your support, for just the good comments, for the prayers, and just for hanging in there with us. So let's get to the story for today. You ever had your bike stolen? You ever had an experience with that? And what do you do to prevent your motorcycle from being stolen? Nowadays there's all kinds of anti-theft mechanisms you can buy from locks, wheel locks, fork locks, ignition locks, alarm systems, motion systems. I have some methods set up myself, but I don't worry about it too much, because I think any way around it, if the thief wants what you have, he's going to take whatever means he is possible to get that. And I've seen that happen before. Now, years ago, many years ago, this would have been back in the 80s, probably in the 1980s, I had this, this Yamaha 650 Special. And I had rebuilt it from the ground up, and it was a pretty cool looking little bike. Kind of reminded you of a Norton or a Triumph. I'd repainted it, took all of the Yamaha stuff off of it so that I could hang with the Harley boys and ride with the clubs and stuff. And it had a little trouble keeping up with some of the bigger CC motorcycles, but I was able to tag along at the back of the line at any rate. But that bike was a little tricky. Now, it had an electric start, but I had it set up so I disconnected the electric start and just had it set up with the kickstart. It did have a kickstart on it. But to kickstart it, just like any kickstart bike, you got to know the complete method to do that. You have to have it right on the upstroke. You have to have the choke set just right. You kick it twice on choke. You take the choke off. Boom, it fires up. And then, you can't give it too much gas or it'll flood out and stall on you. You just got to let it warm up for a minute. There's a whole process to starting that bike. And I could start it up every time without any problem. And I did, but I didn't have a garage or a shed to keep it in, so it was parked behind the house on the sidewalk where it couldn't be seen, and I usually kept a tarp over it, but I had it locked up. I had a chain on it. Well, I got up one morning and went out to get the bike, and it was gone. It had disappeared. And so I called the police and reported that my motorcycle had been stolen. And it was probably an hour or two later that the police called me and said, "We found your motorcycle. It's about a half mile down the road from your house in the bushes." He said, "It looks like somebody tried real hard to get it started, and they couldn't get it started, so they just tossed it over in the weeds and left it there." So I was able to go down and get the bike, and they had pulled the ignition out, thinking they were going to hot wire it or something and get the electric start to work or whatever. And my guess is they had no idea how to kickstart a motorcycle. So I was fortunate enough to get it back, and it wasn't damaged up too much, a few little scratches on it, but that was about it. I had another buddy, this is a little worse case scenario, and he was going through a hard divorce. His wife or his ex was quite the drunk, and the bar fly, for lack of better words, she was one of those floozies, and he ended up filing for a divorce. Very, very, very spiteful woman, very angry. So he came home from work one day, and he had 3 Harleys, and 2 of his Harleys were gone. His shovel head was gone, and he had another Road King that was gone, and his Ultra was still there. Fortunately, I think the trailer they could only fit 2 bikes on. Well, one of the neighbors said that, hey, dude, we saw a trailer pulling out of your driveway with 2 of your motorcycles on it, and it was about in the middle of the afternoon while you were at work. Well, as it turned out, the bikes weren't so much stolen. His wife had sold them to somebody. Now, the bikes were never found. Nobody ever knew what happened to them because she wouldn't divulge any information whatsoever. But he was tore up. He was really upset to lose 2 bikes in one shot. And we did an awful lot to try to investigate, to figure out who was behind it, who she contacted, who took them, who she sold them to. But, she kept a tight lip, and nobody ever knew. We had some suspicions, but it just all led to dead ends. His bikes were never found. Now, I have another story, and it wasn't so much about theft as it turned out, but years ago, before my divorce, I was married, and my ex wanted to learn how to ride this Harley. Now, never had ridden a motorcycle before in her life, and didn't even like riding on the passenger seat. As a result, I did a lot of riding by myself. But she wanted to learn how to ride a motorcycle. So I said, well, okay, got her on the saddle here, and her feet touched flat on the ground. That was a start. And showed her how to start the bike. And then gave her the rundown of the basics, how to use the clutch, how to just ease on the throttle a little bit, don't crack it wide open, where the brakes were. Like I say, the most important thing is learn how to stop the bike. If you're teaching somebody how to ride, make sure they know how to draw that clutch in and push the brake pedal. That's number 1 panic response. Clutch and brake will stop the bike right now. So I taught her all of that, and we got her going up and down the driveway. Now, we got a pretty long driveway. It's about 650 feet from one end to the other. It's a good place to practice, I guess. Maybe not so much on a bigger bike like this, but it worked. And so down the driveway, she putted in first gear. And then we got her turned around. She came back up, all the way back up to the house again. She did that about 3 times, but on the 3rd try, she got down to the end of the road, and I heard my bike going up the road, shifting through gears. And I thought, good grief, she doesn't even know how to ride, and she's going down the road. No helmet, no permit whatsoever, not even a temporary permit, and down the road she went. Well, I wasn't too alarmed until 15, 20 minutes, a half hour, an hour went by, and she still hadn't come back. 2, 3, 4 hours, no sign of her. The day fell into evening, still hadn't come back. Darkness fell, she didn't come back. There was no sign. I didn't get a phone call, nothing. Now, obviously at the time, there was some things going on behind my back that I wasn't aware of, and my marriage was coming to an abrupt end very quickly. But this was one of the key factors that kind of fell into that series of events. The next day, still hadn't heard anything. That went towards the end of the day, and I was distraught. I thought, well, what should I do? Call the sheriff department and report my motorcycle stolen, or should I report my ex missing? Perhaps she's laying in a ditch somewhere, or went over an embankment and is hurt and needs help. And I wasn't quite sure what to do. But knowing some of the behind the scene details, I let it go. I thought, okay, there's something fishy here, but I'm not gonna get the police involved at this time. To make a long story short, it was 3 days later that she came riding back up the driveway, parked the bike in the garage, and acted like it was no big deal, like there wasn't anything wrong. And I was like, what the heck? You just took the bike for 3 days and I never got a phone call or anything. I had no idea where you were. Oh, well, I was with my sister and blah, 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 which was all a pack of lies, but found out later through some credit card purchases where the bike was fueled up that it was in the hometown of another character that I had suspicions of, and sure enough, she had ridden out to hang with him, and it wasn't a pretty scene. Anyway, I got the bike back. Didn't have a scratch on it, thank God. It was still in good shape, and I'm blessed to still have it today. So that's the stories today about getting your bike ripped off. Have you ever had your bike ripped off? Did you get it back? Perhaps you never saw it again. And then there's those of you who have some pretty good ideas on how to arm your bike with anti-theft equipment and what to do, or even alarming the building that it's in and making sure that it's under full surveillance. Some of those things pay off in the long run. If you haven't yet, give me a thumbs up. If you don't like it, and there's always one of you that doesn't, do your thing. Yeah, doesn't bother me at all, at least you're watching. Subscribe. You'll be sure to see more of the videos. And if you liked it that much, share it with your buddies. Appreciate it. Until next time, cats, ride hard, die free.